yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
Walk me through your perspective on the flagrant foul. What was the point you were trying to make to her?
It's just a good take foul, you know. If either Angel gets wide open 2 points, or we send him to the free throw line.
This is why I Caitlin Clark, bro. She does not back down to anyone.
There's a lot of bumping.
Got bumped for no reason, but she does not care.
Caitlin Clark.
Consistent fouls, unfavorable comments, referees looking the other way when she's shoved to the floor. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped into the WNBA, it felt like the entire league was daring her to break. She was the rookie who sold out arenas, shattered TV ratings, and made women's basketball a national conversation. But with every spotlight comes a shadow, and Caitlin has lived in the middle of it all. Opponents didn't just defend her, they hammered her with elbows, blindsided her with cheap shots, and whispered in interviews that she wasn't ready for the league. Even when the cameras weren't rolling, the disrespect never seemed to stop. And here's the crazy part, she still kept shining. Through the bruises, the jeers, and the silence from refs who refused to protect her, Caitlin Clark kept hitting threes, breaking records, and proving she was bigger than the hate. But even the kindest, most humble superstar has a breaking point, because no matter how tough you are, there are certain players who push you so far that the word hate doesn't even feel strong enough. So today we're counting down the 7 players that fans say Caitlin Clark hated the most. If there's one player who set the tone for how Caitlin Clark would be treated in the WNBA, it was Diana Taurasi, the veteran, the legend, the face of Phoenix Mercury, and the first to fire a public shot at Clark before she even played a single professional game. It wasn't a hard foul, it wasn't a cheap shot on the court, it was 6 words delivered with a smirk. Reality is coming. You're going to a grown women's league.
Reality is coming. You look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time.
I'm taking Paige. Next question.
So if you had the #1 pick this year, you would take Paige over Caitlin?
Absolutely.
On the surface, maybe it didn't sound like much, but to Clark's fans, those words cut deeper than any elbow. They felt dismissive, condescending, as if Diana was saying Caitlin's college dominance meant nothing here. And when the clip went viral, Taurasi didn't back down. She doubled down, making it clear that rookies like Clark had a lot to learn. For a 22-year-old stepping into a league full of legends, it was like being told, you're not welcome here. And here's the thing, Caitlin never fired back. She didn't snap at Taurasi in interviews or clap back on social media. She did what she always does, kept her head down and let her game do the talking. But fans never forgot it. To this day, whenever Taurasi and Clark face off, there's a different kind of tension in the air. A reminder that the so-called welcome Caitlin got from one of the league's biggest names wasn't friendly at all. And as harsh as that sounded, it was nothing compared to the physical battles that came next. Because some players didn't stop at words. They tried to hurt her on the court. If Diana Taurasi tried to get in Caitlin's head with words, Kayla McBride went after her team with actions. It happened in a game against the Minnesota Lynx. The Fever were already limping in with half the roster injured, barely holding it together. Then came the moment that sent Caitlin Clark over the edge. Lexi Hull, one of Caitlin's closest teammates, took an elbow straight to the face from McBride. You could hear the smack, see Hull stumble back clutching her face. And then the whistle blew, but not on McBride. Somehow, unbelievably, the foul was called on Lexi Hull. Fans couldn't believe it, the commentators couldn't believe it, and Caitlin, she lost it. She stormed toward the officials, screaming in disbelief, her hands flying through the air. Her face said it all. How much more can we take? It wasn't just about one bad call. It was about a season where her teammates had been targeted over and over while refs swallowed the whistle. And here was another moment, another injustice, and Caitlin couldn't stay calm. For Fever fans, this was one of the clearest signs that Caitlin wasn't just a rookie adjusting to the league. She was being punished, singled out, and even her teammates were paying the price. Kayla McBride may not have meant to make it personal, but after that night, the rivalry between the Fever and Lynx took on a different edge, because for Caitlin Clark, every elbow, every unfair call, it was another reminder that she wasn't being protected. And if the league wouldn't protect her, she'd have to protect herself. But as ugly as that moment was, it was nothing compared to the cheapest shot of her entire rookie season. One that fans are still furious about to this day.
Wasn't expecting it, but I think it's just like, just respond, come down, let your play do the talking. You know, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know.
Of all the moments that made Caitlin Clark a target, one stands above the rest, and it came at the hands of Chicago Sky guard Kennedy Carter. It looked like an ordinary possession, Clark moving without the ball, trying to get into position. Then out of nowhere, Carter blindsided her with a hip check that sent Caitlin crashing to the floor. No warning, no play on the ball, just a full-force cheap shot in broad daylight. The arena gasped. Fever fans jumped out of their seats furious. Social media lit up instantly, clips spreading everywhere, fans demanding suspensions, legends calling it the dirtiest play of the season. And yet, what happened? Nothing. The refs gave Carter a flagrant after review, but there was no ejection, no suspension, no message from the league saying this wouldn't be tolerated. For Caitlin, it was more than just a bruise on her hip. It was a message that she could be knocked down, humiliated, even targeted on national TV, and the system would let it slide. Carter's hit didn't just fire up Fever fans. It exposed what so many already feared. That Clark wasn't just playing against other teams, she was playing against a league that didn't seem interested in protecting its biggest star. And while Carter tried to brush it off after the game, refusing to even say Caitlin's name in interviews, fans didn't forget. For weeks, every debate show, every podcast, every highlight reel circled back to that hit. Because it wasn't just dirty, it was symbolic.
Carter refused to answer questions about the foul after the game.
I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions.
But later, Carter saying this on social media. Besides three-point shooting, what does she bring to the table?
Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie anymore, she was a threat. And sometimes the only way rivals knew how to respond was by trying to knock her down. But if Carter's hit was the cheapest, it wasn't the most relentless. Because the next name on this list, she made life miserable for Caitlin every single time they shared the floor. Some players hit you once, others make sure you feel them every single possession. And for Caitlin Clark, nobody fit that description better than Alyssa Thomas. The Connecticut Sun forward is built like a tank, tough, physical, and relentless. She doesn't back down from anyone, but when it came to Caitlin Clark, Thomas seemed to take it up another level. From the first time they matched up, it was elbows in the ribs, body checks on drives, hard contests that went way beyond normal defense. Every trip down the floor looked like a battle in the paint, even if Caitlin didn't have the ball. Fans noticed it immediately. Why are the refs letting this happen? Became the constant question every time Indiana faced Connecticut, and the answer never came. The whistles stayed silent. One game in particular stood out. Caitlin tried to cut across the lane, and Thomas slammed into her shoulder so hard she nearly lost balance mid-stride. No call, not even a glance from the officials. And as Caitlin picked herself up, Thomas just kept jogging like it was nothing. Moments like that piled up. Over and over, Thomas made Clark feel the weight of a veteran who wasn't about to give her an easy night. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't viral like the Chennedy Carter cheap shot, but in many ways, it was worse, because it never stopped. For fans, Alyssa Thomas became the face of the WNBA's rough welcome for Caitlin Clark. A reminder that sometimes the league's brightest young star wasn't just playing basketball, she was surviving it, and if Clark thought the veterans were hard on her, the younger stars weren't about to make life any easier. Because the next player on this list, she wasn't afraid to let her feelings about Caitlin be known both on and off the court. When it comes to pure scoring talent, Arike Ogunbowale has been one of the WNBA's brightest stars for years. She's clutch, she's explosive, and she's carried Dallas on her back season after season. But ever since Caitlin Clark entered the league, something shifted. Suddenly, all the cameras, all the headlines, all the praise weren't on Arike anymore. They were on Caitlin, and that didn't sit well. Fans picked up on it quickly. In post-game interviews and the way Arike carried herself during games against Indiana, there was always an edge. She didn't hide the fact that she wasn't impressed by all the Caitlin hype. On the court, you could feel the tension. Every time Caitlin drove into the lane, Arike met her with hard contact. Every jumper Caitlin hit seemed to fuel her fire even more. It wasn't just competition, it felt personal. One matchup in particular went viral when Arike hit a tough shot and immediately started jawing as if to say, "Don't forget who I am." And Caitlin, she didn't respond with words. She came back down the floor and buried a three of her own, staring straight ahead with ice in her veins. For fans, this rivalry became bigger than just two players. It became a clash between eras, Arike, the established star fighting for her respect, and Caitlin, the rookie phenom who seemed to steal the spotlight overnight. And while Arik never came out and said she hated Caitlin Clark, the body language, the physical play, the subtle digs told the story loud and clear. But if Arik's rivalry was built on competitiveness, the next player took it further. Because when Natasha Cloud spoke out, she didn't just challenge Caitlin's game, she questioned the entire hype machine behind her. Not every battle Caitlin Clark faced this season came from a foul on the court. Some of the ugliest moments came from words, and few players have been more vocal than Natasha Cloud. The Washington Mystics guard has never been afraid to speak her mind, but when it came to Caitlin Clark, Cloud's comments felt less like normal competition and more like a personal attack. While most of the league stayed quiet about Clark's growing fame, Cloud didn't hold back. She fired off social media posts, questioned the attention Caitlin was getting, and even hinted that the league was bending over backwards for her. To Clark's fans, it came across as jealousy, pure and simple. One post in particular set the internet on fire. Cloud called out the double standards and how rookies were treated, pointing straight at the Caitlin Clark circus. The message was clear: she didn't buy the hype, and fans instantly rallied behind Clark, flooding timelines with defenses of their star. But this wasn't just an online feud. On the court, you could feel the hostility. When Washington faced Indiana, every possession felt charged. Cloud guarded Caitlin like she had something to prove, bumping her on drives, sticking close even off the ball. The tension was thick enough that even neutral fans started calling it personal. For Caitlin, dealing with Cloud wasn't just about shaking a defender, it was about shaking off an entire narrative that her rise was somehow unfair, that she hadn't earned her spotlight. But as tough as Cloud was, she still wasn't the ultimate rival, because there was one player who'd been connected to Caitlin Clark long before the WNBA, one rivalry that started in college and exploded onto the biggest stage. And that's why number one on this list could only be Angel Reese. There was never any doubt who would land at number one, because no player has been tied to Caitlin Clark's story more than Angel Reese.
Last year, you made a powerful statement saying the reason people are watching women's basketball is not just because of one player, but because of you two. A year later, do you feel like you're
Next question.
The rivalry started long before the WNBA. It was the 2023 NCAA Championship. Iowa versus LSU. Clark was the unstoppable sharpshooter. Reese was the fierce competitor who refused to be overshadowed. And in the closing moments of LSU's victory, Reese delivered the gesture that went viral around the world, pointing to her ring finger, waving her hand in Caitlin's face. Some called it trash talk. Others called it disrespect. But either way, it marked the birth of one of the most polarizing rivalries in basketball, and when both players entered the WNBA, the tension didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. Every Fever Sky matchup became must-watch television, with fans on both sides packing arenas just to see what would happen next. On the court, it was physical. Reese fought for rebounds like her life depended on it, never giving Caitlin an inch. Off the court, it was personal. Interviews, tweets, sly comments. Both players became symbols in a larger culture war that stretched far beyond basketball. And through it all, Caitlin never backed down. She took the hits, she absorbed the trash talk, and she kept putting up numbers that made headlines no matter what. But fans couldn't shake the feeling that if Caitlin Clark truly hated anyone, if there was one name that lived rent-free in her head, it was Angel Reese. Because Angel wasn't just a rival, she was the rival. The player who turned a championship game into a viral feud, the one who followed Caitlin into the pros, and the one who ensured that wherever Caitlin Clark's name was mentioned, hers would be right there too. But here's the twist. Rivalries like this are what make legends. For every shove, every gesture, every headline, Angel Reese became the fuel that pushed Caitlin Clark to prove herself again and again. And if this is just the beginning, we might be looking at the fiercest rivalry the WNBA has ever seen. 7 players, 7 rivals who pushed Caitlin Clark to the edge with hard fouls, trash talk, and blatant disrespect. From Diana Taurasi dismissing her before she even played a game, to Kayla McBride's elbow that left her teammate bleeding, to Chennedy Carter's cheap shot that the entire world saw, and finally, Angel Reese, the rival who followed her from college glory into the pros. Every one of them left their mark on Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Every one of them tested her in ways most players never have to deal with. But here's the thing. Caitlin never folded. She never walked away, never begged for sympathy. Instead, she kept showing up, dropping threes, breaking records, and proving that no amount of hate could dim her spotlight. And maybe that's the real lesson here. The hate, the fouls, the unfair calls, they weren't just obstacles, they were fuel. Fuel for the biggest rookie season in WNBA history. Fuel for a career that's just getting started. Because love her or hate her, Caitlin Clark is the name on everyone's lips. And if the league thought these battles would slow her down, they were wrong. So now the question is, which of these rivalries do you think will define her career the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's see where fans stand, because one thing's for sure. Caitlin Clark's story is only just beginning, and every enemy she faces is only making her legend stronger.